Here we fucking go again. The feminist strikes again. I mean, fucking hell. Just, you know, I thought I was done with Anita Sarkeesian. Okay, seriously. When she said she was going to stop doing the video game bullshit and go into women in history, I thought, I'm done. Because with the history, I'm somewhat of an historian, and I know historians would probably eat her up if she would go the same route. But no, she's still doing it. She's still talking complete You know what? When I saw this video, this is what I was thinking about.
What's the big fucking deal? What the fuck are we doing out here? I ask you, what in the fuck are we doing here? What in the fuck are we
Movement can be a powerful thing. Most of us who play games can appreciate the importance of a well-timed jump in a platformer or a skillful dodge in a fighting game.
Okay.
But sometimes it's the seemingly ordinary movements that actually tell us the most about a character. The way they do simple things like walk or sit down.
So again, we are just going to ignore a character's background, her story, why she acts the way she does, why she uses her sexuality to her advantage. We're just gonna ignore that. It doesn't matter, huh? Alright.
In most ways, Destiny treats its playable female characters almost identically to how it treats its male characters. For instance, the armor you acquire when playing as a female character isn't sexualized, but looks just as practical and stylish as the gear equipped by male characters.
Well, yeah, it would not really make sense to walk on the moon in a bikini or in a dress or something like that. I mean, what are you trying to say here?
However, there is one way in which the male and female characters are differentiated by gender, and it has to do with their movement. Watch how a male guardian sits down, taking a load off after a long, hard day fighting the forces of pure evil. It's simple, it suggests confidence. When a female character sits down, however, it's a completely different story. She sits like a delicate flower. This is supposed to be a hardened space warrior, and yet she's sitting around like she's Ariel from The Little Mermaid.
Really? So now we're just gonna go bitch about fictional characters that are women sitting like women do. Guess what, Anita? Women don't sit the way men do. If a woman would sit just the way you show that man sitting, it would kind of look awkward. You know that she's actually sitting like a classy lady, sits. So what the fuck's the problem there? You want her to sit with her legs wide open or something? I mean, what the? Fuck!
I ask you, what in the fuck are we doing here? What in the fuck are we?
A character's animation and movement is just as much a part of who they are as their appearance and their clothing.
Why are you using Rayman? I don't get it.
And like any other aspect of a character, game designers use movement to communicate information about them to the player. This isn't inherently a bad thing. Expressive character animations are just a way for the game to contribute to our understanding of who a character is and what defines them. How a character walks, jumps, even how they sit down can tell us a lot about them. For instance, Ryu Hayabusa's precise and graceful movement conveys that he is a highly trained ninja. While the way Nathan Drake scrambles and fumbles in dangerous situations is meant to suggest that he's more of a relatable, ordinary guy who just keeps finding himself in extraordinary circumstances.
We were almost in that.
By contrast, the way that women move in games isn't just used to suggest their confidence or their skill or some other facet of their personality. It's very often used in conjunction with other aspects of their design to make them exude sexuality for the entertainment of the presumed straight male player.
Okay, Anita, seriously, Anita, have you ever met a confident woman that's comfortable with her sexuality? Like ever? Have you ever met a woman that is comfortable with her sexuality? That doesn't mean that she's a sex object. I'm just asking because I doubt it. Fuck it.
What the hell?
Catwoman from the Arkham series has a deeply exaggerated hip sway when she walks.
Oh, come on, not this again. Not, oh, fucking hell, not this again. Anita, it's fucking Catwoman. Do you fucking know who Catwoman is? First of all, she's always been like that. Right? You can blame it on like the way she was written in the comics, but here's the thing. Catwoman is a much better feminist than you are. Because first of all, she's confident. Yeah, she's confident. And second of all, she's comfortable with her sexuality. 3, she doesn't let others see her as a sex object. Because guess what? She's a badass woman. She's not a weak woman. 4th, she uses her sexuality to her advantage to catch men off guard. You know, to flirt with men and then be a badass. 5, she's Catwoman for a reason. You realize that women that are compared to cats usually are like sexy women that walk sexy, you know, with a hip sway like some cats do. I'm sorry, but I don't know, I didn't really sleep much. I'm kind of ignored, so if you don't want to hear any cuss words, stop the video right here because fuck this. I'm done. Fuck this. I'm done giving her the benefit of the doubt. This woman is just fucking stupid.
In combination with her clothing and the game's camera angles, all of this is meant to drive the player's focus to her highly sexualized butt.
Okay, first of all, the focus is not on her butt. The focus is on the middle of the screen and she's on the side of the screen. That's a very big thing right there. Because first of all, you realize that players are meant to know what's going on around them, you know, what's happening around them. That would be impossible if they would only focus on her butt. Have you even played like those Batman games? If your focus is only on her butt, first of all, you're never gonna finish the story. You're gonna get your ass kicked every time because you aren't looking at what's going around. Yeah. Fucking hell! How can someone? See, you're trolling, aren't you? You're trolling, Anita. You're trolling because I can't believe that you're that stupid.
In Resident Evil Revelations, Jill Valentine somehow manages to wiggle her whole body while she runs. In Assassin's Creed Syndicate, Evie Frye is a character who avoids falling into many of the sexualizing traps that some playable female characters do, but she still walks with an exaggerated hip sway.
Yeah, because she's a woman and her hips are wider than men. Do all the girls in your little club walk like dudes or something? And I've seen you walk. You don't walk like a dude, so I don't see what the problem is here. Again, I just think you're trolling.
In Saints Row the Third, you can change your character's gender at any time. If you go to the clinic and swap your gender from male to female, you also come away with a newly sexualized walking animation, even though you're literally supposed to be the same character.
Yeah, first of all, you change gender. Basically, that's you creating another character. They use the clinic so it would kind of make sense in that world, but no, it's not the same character anymore. You're basically changing characters.
Male heroes are allowed to simply walk like normal human beings in ways that are average or strong or graceful or goofy.
Yeah, and women walk like normal women do. What the fuck's the problem?
Meanwhile, motion-captured animations for female characters often make them look as if they're walking down a runway at a fashion show in stiletto heels, even when the characters are actually in combat situations.
Yeah, you know, some of the women that you use, they do walk like exaggerated, but there's a reason for that. That's because, first of all, they're comfortable in their sexuality. That's the character. And guess what, Anita? In the real world, there are women like that. And no, they're not even seen as sex objects. Well, some of them are, yeah, but many aren't. Because they're badass women. Badass, classy women even walk like that. Because they're comfortable with who they are. You know, and I don't know, maybe, like I said before, it has something to do with the female body. The way they walk. I mean, Quiet, I'll be honest, I'll be the first one to say that Quiet is sexualized like hell. But she doesn't walk that exaggerated. And also, women that are comfortable with their sexuality, they do tend to show it off. It's clear that you're not. What you have is more of an obsession, but generally, women that are comfortable with their sexuality, they do like to show it off.
Watching these characters' in-game movement animations, you'd think that the director of the motion capture session directed them to walk like a model instead of a hardened space warrior, or master thief, or bioterrorism agent, or crime boss, or vampire, or assassin.
First of all, females from Destiny, they don't walk like Bayonetta, so I don't know why you're using that. And again, it has something to do with the individual characters, who they are individually. Some characters are sexualized for no reason, I'll give you that. Some characters are sexualized because it's who they are, just like in the real fucking world. I mean, Anita, seriously, in what world do you live? In what world do you feminazis live? Because it's not the real world, it's not reality. Fucking hell.
Of course, in the real world, people do walk with a sway of the hips when wearing high heels. If we want to get really technical about it, this slight hip sway occurs in order to maintain balance. This in and of itself is not a problem, other than generally being deeply uncomfortable. But it raises an important question. Why are these female characters in combat roles wearing high heels? With all the fighting, running, and climbing these women have to do, dressing them in heels is clearly a decision rooted in sexualized aesthetic pleasure rather than believability.
Most aren't, to be honest. I mean, let's be honest. At this point, you're just cherry picking.
In fact, animating so many female characters in games to fit into this very gendered, sexualizing walk pattern is an example of one of the ways the male gaze manifests in video games. The term male gaze was coined in 1975 by feminist film critic Laura Mulvey and refers to the tendency for the visual arts to assume and be structured around a presumed masculine viewer, or in this case, player. The male gaze manifests when the camera takes on a perspective of a stereotypical heterosexual man. An indisputable example of this is when the camera lingers, caresses, or pans across a woman's body, although it's not always that obvious.
And you're ignoring that men are treating the same way. It's just what aspects are in focus. You realize that women, they're not going to look at a man's breast or a man's butt, you know, or if they're not gonna like it if a man walks like a female. No. Women fall for like alpha males, buffed, ripped, you know, muscular. And you're not gonna tell me that they're not doing that to men. Seriously.
It reinforces the notion that man looks and the woman is looked at. Or as art critic John Berger explains in the 1972 book Ways of Seeing, men act and women appear. Men look at women. Women watch themselves being looked at. This determines not only most relations between men and women, but also the relation of women to themselves.
Ignoring the simple fact that women who feel comfortable with it, they actually want to be looked at. That's why they do it. You're not one of them, even though I see you have those, what you call gender signifiers or something. Red lipstick, big ass earrings. But it's okay when a feminist does it. You know, if a feminist wants to walk naked outside, it's all for women power. But if a game designer takes one of those women in real life and put them in a video game, it's a problem. Get the fuck out of here.
To be clear, the male gaze is not a hard and fast rule. It's a theoretical concept that is meant to help us understand the sometimes subtle and nuanced ways in which our culture influences media, and the way that media in turn can shape and reinforce existing gender dynamics in our culture.
Oh, you mean like all those half-naked men that are doing commercials? You think all men look like David Beckham or Brad Pitt or something like that? Anita, it goes both fucking ways, you fucking hypocrite.
The male gaze is also not in any way limited to men or heterosexual people. Almost all of us internalize and sometimes identify with the male gaze to some extent. Eradicating the male gaze is not as simple as introducing an inverse female gaze that sexualizes men either. Not just because equal opportunity sexual objectification isn't the answer, but also because it isn't actually equal. One reinforces pre-existing oppressive ideas about women that are real and damaging to women in their everyday lives.
And having men that are all buffed and manly, you think that doesn't affect any man? You think when like a guy, you know, which might be considered a nerd, you know, skinny guy, looks at a commercial that has, I don't know, David Beckham in it or something, you think he's looking at that like, oh yeah, that's cool. Yeah, that gives me confidence.
the other doesn't reinforce anything. Nor are the two interchangeable. For example, when the satirical website The Hawkeye Initiative reimagines male characters in sexualized poses that are common for female characters, it isn't using the female gaze. This is just the male gaze applied to men.
Yeah, that's because they focus on different things. I mean, do you honestly believe women fall for feminine dudes? Would you fall for a feminine dude that walks like a girl, talks like a girl maybe, or something like that? Would you fall for that? Seriously, Anita, think. I know it's hard for you feminazis, but think.
When male characters are depicted as shirtless or wearing little clothing, like the character sometimes dubbed Hot Ryu from Street Fighter V, their lack of clothing demonstrates their power and strength, rather than depicting them as erotic playthings or reducing them to sexualized body parts.
Wrong. Again, females fall for the buffed up alpha male, and you damn right know that. And men, guess what? They fall for the sexy feminine girls. It's basically how it works. You know, it's in our DNA implanted what we fall for. You know, if you want, oh fuck, I'm done. I'm fucking done. I mean, how hard is that to understand? Seriously, Anita, you're going full retard. One does not go full fucking retard like you're doing right now.
The same is true when it comes to movement. Male characters get to move in ways that emphasize all sorts of characteristics and personality traits, but there's a whole world of untapped potential for representations of female characters who aren't animated in ways that frame them as sex objects, but who get to be just as stealthy or strong, swift or imposing, clumsy or graceful. The way Ellie moves in The Last of Us communicates a sense of tension and danger, demonstrating what it's like when female characters are animated in ways that emphasize their personality.
So what's the big fucking deal? What the fuck are we doing out here? I ask you, what in the fuck are we doing here?